Hello, 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 and good evening. I'm Josh Johnson. This is First Alert Weather Extra-ish, right? We're a few minutes late. I apologize. Had some setup issues, to put it diplomatically. All right, so we're streaming this live on the First Alert Weather app, the news app, our streaming family of apps, and on Facebook and YouTube. So something for everyone tonight. Now, let's dive into it here. We have soon to be on land, Hurricane Helene. Check it out. Here's radar. This thing is a monster. No sugarcoating it. There's the center. This is very close to Perry, Florida. Now, the center has definitely jogged a bit east today. This is, for us, good news. For some folks down here, it's very bad news. But this is a big old hurricane streaming on inland now. So the northern eye wall is essentially on shore now. What will happen is the technical landfall point will be when the center of circulation is on shore. Now that will happen between 10 and 11 o'clock tonight. So the timing part of this forecast is pretty good. Now this from here, what happens next? Let me show you. So this will move towards the north and then eventually northeast and then eventually curve back to the north. And this is going to be a huge problem here from Valdosta to Albany to Macon. And quite frankly, then from there, this will go on up through north central Georgia before curving northwest, passing probably between Atlanta and Athens. Along that whole track, there's going to be significant problems with damaging wind and power outages and flash flooding. Then we get up here into the North Georgia mountains. So mountains and hurricanes are a horrible mix. We see it all the time in some of the Caribbean countries, the mountainous ones, where we get these torrential rainfall situations with a hurricane. And mountains tend to create flood issues, right? Because all that water runs off into the low-lying areas below it. I have grave concerns about loss of life and significant damage from inland freshwater flooding. So that means water that's falling from the sky at the North Georgia mountains. The highest elevations there, the western South Carolina, western North Carolina, even into eastern Tennessee, the Smokies. I think we're going to have big issues with inland flooding. So if you have family or friends, this is a life-threatening scenario from the Big Bend of Florida up through Tallahassee and points east to Valdosta, to Albany, to Macon, to Atlanta, to Athens, and then from there on up into the North Georgia mountains, Ellijay, Blue Ridge, Dahlonega, Dawsonville, places like that. I think we're going to see some pretty significant problems there because of both the intensity of this hurricane and the extremely fast forward motion. Hurricanes weaken when they hit land due to friction with the Earth's surface over land being higher than it is on the ocean, because land has things like hills and trees and stuff like that. The ocean doesn't. That friction slows it down, but it takes time. Faster a hurricane's moving, the farther inland those strong winds can spread before it really weakens. So, all right, the whatabouts have begun, which that's my code, or my little slang name for what about Slapout, what about Deatsville, what about Prattville, what about Elmore, what about Cusado, what about Montgomery, what about Pike Road, what about Rockford? So, let me just walk you through this. If you're wondering about your specific community, I'm going to give you an answer right now. So here's the deal. Where it is raining hard right now, it will essentially keep happening, right? So this part of the state right here, this is where there will be multiple hours of continuous rain, and some problem areas are going to develop with flash flooding. Not everyone will have it, but they will be these kind of isolated problem areas. Wind will gust upwards of 30 to 35 miles an hour. Not enough to cause structural damage. We're not going to flip over cars and tear apart houses, but some weakened trees, whether they're weakened from previous storms, diseased, bug-infested, whatever, they could come down. That would again be the exception, not the rule, but it could be enough to cause some sporadic power outages in these far eastern counties. So who am I talking about with this? I'm talking about Coosa County, particularly the eastern sections, Tallapoosa, Chambers, Clay, Randolph, Cleburne, Macon, Lee, Russell, Bullock, Pike, Barber, Dale, Henry, Houston, Geneva. If you live in one of those counties I just mentioned, that was your forecast. So we'll call this will be kind of, we'll call it Zone A. That's really where things will be most active. All right, Zone B is just a little west of there, right? We'll see it right here. This is Zone B. If you live in Birmingham and Clanton and Montgomery and Prattville and Millbrook and Otaugaville and Slapout and Greenville and Butler County and Andalusia and Laverne and Rutledge, all these places kind of in the middle of the state, this is not a big deal. There's on again, off again light rain. It's mainly light. The wind is noticeable. It's a nuisance. It might blow over your trash can. That's about it. I don't expect power outages in this part of the state. I don't expect really significant, impactful weather in this part of the state. That's Zone B. Then there is Zone C, which is all the way to the Mississippi state line. Zone C is C for clear. It is not going to rain a drop in most of Zone C, and if it does, it won't last long and it won't amount to much. So that's where we are with the whatabouts. The specific communities, counties, cities, all of that was just answered. So I cannot zoom in on the map, Diana. That's a great question. I wish I could have. It didn't work out that way. So we'll work on the setup here. This is the first time we've ever streamed something live on Facebook, YouTube, and our apps all at the same time. So we have some probably some infrastructure investments to make it really go. Right now, I'm not joking when I say that the setup right now is quite literally a ladder with an iPad on it and an actual camera. So again, I understand what we're working with here. We have some. All right, people asking about Elmore. Yes, slap out is included. Elmore County, eastern part of the county could be a little wetter than the western part, but it's on again, off again, light rain. It's not a big deal, right? You're probably really not even in Zone A. You're probably in Zone B. But understand, hurricanes have no idea about these lines I've drawn on the map. It is really areas along and east of 231. That's really where we're super kind of zeroed in here. And really mainly, let's just say this, if your county touches Georgia, that's really where the maximum risk is. And maybe one column of counties over. So again, for Elmore County, there's some on and off rain. It is light to moderate in nature for the most part. The lone exception to that could be the far eastern section of the county. So there you go. So what is the red marks around Covington County? That is where I drew these lines on a map that absolutely helped no one. So, yay! So there we are. Let me just try to summarize this again. I don't really know how else to put it. We've said the same thing probably 148 times today. Far east Alabama along the Georgia border, periods of heavy rain, wind gusts of 25 to 35 miles an hour. Isolated problems with flash flooding, isolated problems with power outages. This would include places like Dadeville, Alexander City, Lafayette Valley, Lynette, Auburn, Opelika, Smith Station, Tuskegee, Cotton Valley, Fort Davis, Union Springs, Seal, Hurtsboro, Eufaula, Clio, Baker Hill, Ozark, Abbeville, Headland, and Dothan. So that far eastern section of the state. A little west of there, scattered on and off rain. Clanton, Montgomery, Prattville, Millbrook, Wetumpka, Greenville, Troy, Andalusia, Ott, Laverne, Georgiana. West of there, it doesn't rain really hardly any at all. Demopolis, Camden, Selma, Marion, Greensboro, Grove Hill, Monroeville, Camden, Miller's Ferry, that area. Hardly rains a drop. So that's our best thing at it. That's really where we've kind of maintained that idea this whole time, that's really how this breaks down. It's East Alabama. For everyone else, this is sort of rain with a name, but in the eastern counties of the state, far eastern counties, could be a little more. So there you go. I'm at a tent at Wind Creek State Park. Should I pack them up and head on home? That depends. Do you have any trees overhead? That matters. At Wind Creek, I really think the main concern would be something like that. You know, do you get a weakened tree limb that falls on your tent, et cetera, et cetera? If you don't, I wouldn't worry about it. It will be a very wet one. Scheduled for a flight into Atlanta tomorrow morning. Do I think it will be possible? I don't know. I think it will be pretty wet and pretty stormy at that point in time. I'd say it's a long shot, but predicting airline behavior is a lot harder than predicting the weather, believe it or not. The airlines have a mind of their own. And yes, Joseph, it is a Cat 4. Mickey asked if Uncle Bobby made it out of Bonifay. That's a reference to a previous post I made earlier today. I'm sure Uncle Bobby's doing just fine down in Bonifay. So, all right, I hate to run, gang, but it is 9:55. That means WSFA 12 News at 10 starts in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I hope you can join us there. We will talk all things Helene, and then we'll get into what happens next. which is good news, right? I do have good news. I have happy news for everyone here. The weekend looks great. In fact, Friday looks great. It'll be cloudy early, sunny to finish. You'll notice the wind out there, but you don't have much, if any, rain. Same thing Saturday, tiny rain chance. It's a breezy day, but it's nice. The sunshine is out, the humidity's down. All in all, it's good stuff. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. We'll probably do an additional Facebook Live after the 10 o'clock news. So I'll work on zooming in the iPad on the ladder for everyone so that you can see a little better if you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube. All right, take care. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. Keep our friends in Florida and Georgia in your thoughts and prayers. I'm gravely concerned that this is going to be an historic storm for them and something they talk about for a pretty long time. So we'll see how the night unfolds.